Today I'm looking at a very bold case from Antec. It is their GX505. It comes in this great looking box that has features, specifications, and pictures of the product on it. It's packaged very well between two pieces of styrofoam, and the case itself is in a plastic bag. It has protective plastic on all the shiny bits as well as on the window. Included in this box is a product overview, and by the way, you can download the full manual on Antec's website. Information on their 3-year warranty, all the screws required for installing the hardware, plus a speaker. You've got some cable ties and plastic rails for installing drives. At the front of the case, at the very top, just underneath here, are two LEDs. There are actually two 5¼ drive bays. I know it looks like there's three, but there's actually two. And these drive bay covers come off as easily as that by popping these two levers on either side. And by the way, they have dust filters in each. There's mesh on those drive covers as well as here, so lots of ventilation. And note their Antec logo in the middle. And this front panel can be very easily removed by pulling at the bottom. But remember that there is a cable here which goes to these couple of LEDs at the top. So be careful when you are taking it out not to damage that. As well, they have a removable dust filter. And this filter can be removed by pressing here at the top on each side as well as at the bottom. And voila, you can take it off, wash it, and put it back. Now, while they don't include any fans at the front, you can optionally install up to two 120mm fans. On the left side panel, there's a large window, and note how it's punched out. This is for a few reasons. It looks cool. It also gives you a little bit more space on the inside of the case. The right side panel also has a matching punch out, and this will give you some extra space behind the motherboard tray. Like the front of the case, the top is very stylish. It has lots of ventilation. And at the top left, there are two USB 3 ports. Here are the audio jacks for the microphone and headphone, as well as a hard drive activity LED. At the front center, there's a power switch, and around it a power LED and a place right here to put all kinds of goodies. And on the right side there's a reset switch and a fan speed switch. You can have the fans off at a low speed or a high speed. Now, this portion of the top panel can be removed by taking off two screws and moving it backwards and just lifting it off to reveal two included 120mm exhaust fans. At the back, at the very top, they include two rubber grommeted holes for the water cooling tubes and or cables to pass through. Here's where the motherboard's I/O shield plate gets installed. They as well include a 120mm exhaust fan. Extra ventilation. You've got 7 ventilated expansion slots, and at the bottom is where you would install a standard ATX power supply. And by the way, the left side panel can be secured with an optional lock. And they include 4 thumb screws, 2 on each side panel. Now, this case fits standard ATX, micro ATX, and mini ITX form factor motherboards. Note that they have a large hole on the motherboard tray for the cooler's retention plate and other holes here for routing cables behind the motherboard tray, and there is lots of space behind the motherboard tray for doing so. Now, right now I'm just going to go over the video card length and the cooler height. For the video card, you can have one that is up to 380mm long, and as for the CPU cooler height, you can have one that's 158mm high. As well, you can fit up to 3 3.5-inch drives here and another drive at the top, but this one would be a 2.5-inch drive. Now, as for drives, I already mentioned that you can install up to two 5.25-inch drives. They have a toolless design for those, but you can also install up to 4 3.5-inch drives here and a 2.5-inch drive at the top. Oh, and as for power supply length, you can have one that's around 270mm long. As well, they have a couple of soft rubber rests here for the power supply to lodge on. Now, have a peek from the inside of the case looking up. At the top of the case, again, you've got two 120mm fans and another 120 at the back, all our exhausting air. On the back of the motherboard tray, you can see that you've got lots of punch outs for attaching and organizing the cables. And remember that fan switch at the top of the case. You can set the fans off to a low or a high speed. While you can do that with the 3 included fans, but they also have provision for installing a couple more. At the bottom, there are 4 tall feet. Each one has a rubber insert. This is good because it will keep the case up off of the surface, especially wonderful if it's on a really soft surface like carpet, because it will allow this bottom power supply fan to intake lots of cool air. And they do have a removable dust filter for it. Now this case has bold styling, is relatively inexpensive, and has plenty of features. But what is it missing, and how can you compare it to other cases in this particular category and price range? Well, overall, it competes extremely well on pretty much everything, including water cooling. Now, there's not many internal water cooling options, but remember, you do have those rubber ground-mounted holes on the back to give you provision for that. I would have liked to seen, removable drive compartments on the inside. Would have liked to seen more options for 2.5-inch drives and whatnot. But all things considered, this is a great product. Until next time, take care.